Thank you, the member for Wills. The question is that the motion be agreed to. I call the member for Swan.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I must say it's a pleasure to see you back in Canberra, and I know you have much wildlife in your territory. I too rise to join with the member for Latrobe and other previous members condemning the act of canned hunting across the world and the importation of such species into Australia. I begin by asking members to imagine an animal which has been taken from their mother at birth and raised by humans, not because there is anything wrong with its mother or it is in the best interest of the animal, simply because they can and because to do so unfortunately guarantees them a very lucrative international business trade. The animal is then raised in captivity until one day is taken outside and left to wander aimlessly inside a large fenced enclosure until someone who has paid up to $50,000 to the person who took this animal from its mother is allowed to kill it with a shotgun, a handgun or sometimes even a crossbow. This is not something hunters are doing as part of a conservation effort. It is simply so they can guarantee they will be able to go home and put a trophy on their wall. In my mind, I can't really call that hunting. With this in mind, I will highlight that I'm not opposed to hunting in its true form, and in particular hunting for conservation purposes, but I am against this atrocious act of canned hunting. As my fellow members have stated, canned hunting is where animals are raised in captivity for the purpose of eventually becoming trophy kills for foreigners wanting to mount a lion or other animal on their wall. It is a despicable act of cruelty, but is one which continues to be allowed in many countries around the world, but most notably in South Africa. For example, in South Africa there are about 4,000 wild lions, but what many Australians don't know is that there is many more than double that number in captivity. The member for Latrobe next to me, and I again applaud him for this motion, has done significant work in his electorate and on a national level to raise awareness of canned hunting and the amount of trophies Australians have been allowed to import under the Australian Environment Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act 1999, and again I commend him for his efforts. While these trophies have been imported under this Act, I do, however, highlight that Australia's exportation, but most importantly in this instance the importation of wild fauna and flora, is guided by the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, or CITES, which Australia joined in 1976 and 180 countries are a party to. The aim of CITES is to ensure that international trade of wild animals or plants does not threaten their survival. This is particularly important for those animals which are endangered. Madam Deputy Speaker, I also highlight that canned hunting in countries such as South Africa is predominantly by people from European countries, not Australia. But this does not negate our responsibility to prevent their importation into our country to ensure we do not inadvertently support this atrocious act. As the member for Latrobe stated, the number of wildlife trophies and body parts imported into Australia from 2010 to 2014 includes over 40 different species, consisting of 93 hunt trophies and 1,027 body parts. Although the concept of canned hunting itself is distressing for many Australians, it is also the less blatant cruelty that takes place to these animals that Australians need to be aware of, as well as the fraud that is happening right under our noses. As I've said, these animals are raised in captivity, so for these farm owners to continue their trade, which is worth approximately $200 million in Africa alone, they are regularly crossbred or inbred, leaving animals to suffer from such issues as rickets, back and eyesight problems. Australian volunteers are also being conned by these farm owners. As my colleagues have stated, Australian volunteers are spending about $700 per week to travel to South Africa in their belief that they are looking after animals such as lion cubs which will be returned to the wild. The reality is they are inadvertently aiding canned hunting, which is illegal in Australia. And Deputy Speaker, the member for Latrobe, as I said, has already done much in this space, including working with the Minister for Environment, Greg Hunt, to call for bans for the importation of, or to actually get the ban for the importation of rhinoceros body parts. The Minister also has now announced that he intends to extend this ban to the importation of lion parts and lion trophies into Australia, an act which I fully support. On this basis, again applaud the member for Latrobe's call for the importation of animals or animal parts which have been killed under these conditions to be banned, and the Minister's actions to date to see these actions implemented. Thank you.
Well done.